the new and improved A Little Spoon kitchen. We left our original state and we traveled. I am now living in Colorado, and this is now my new studio. I'm really excited to have you guys here, and today we're going to be making barbecue potato chips for the first time in a new state. So let's get started. We are first going to take our russet potatoes. You want to use a starchy potato for your potato chips. The waxier ones like Yukon Gold or potatoes that you would essentially put in like a potato salad are too waxy, and they are not going to cook as well and as thoroughly. You want to have a starchier potato. The sugars are really what's going to let it brown real nice. And I will contradict myself a little bit, but I swear it's for science, and I'll explain as I go. You will hear some slight contradictions as I continue, but it is for a reason. You do still need the starchier potatoes. So the first thing we're going to do is we are actually going to peel these. You do not have to peel your potatoes. If you like to have the skin on your potatoes, just give them a really good scrub. Make sure that all of the dirt and whatever else got sprayed on them, fungicides and things like that, is off. And then we're going to go ahead and peel these. They're going to get added into a water bath that is partially vinegar, partially water, right after we slice them. So let me go ahead and peel. I've got about 800 grams of potato here. I'd say this is about 3 medium potatoes. If you wanted to do more, this will make a lot of potato chips, by the way. But if you want to have like a huge batch of potatoes, you could do more. You could 1.5 times the recipe. You could double the recipe. Just know that when you do that, you also need to double the vinegar and water solution. If you do not double it, then it's not going to do the same thing for your potatoes because it's going to be too many potato slices by solution ratio. So essentially, let's see, what we're doing here is I'm just taking these off. I prefer to not have our skin on potatoes. I believe I do have a couple of people cooking with me today. So if you found this video at a later date and you're watching it on YouTube, welcome, number one. Number two, you are going to hear me pause and kind of chat with people on occasion. They're going to ask questions in a chat over here on my computer. They may or may not ask a question that you're thinking about that I have not answered. So hopefully you won't have to ask any further questions in like the comment section underneath this video. But just in case, just kind of watch through, see if all of your questions get answered, or don't. Just comment and I'll get to it. If I see that there are comments left below the video, I'll go ahead and I'll respond to those. But welcome if you are here at a later date. So essentially what I've done is I've set this up. If you don't, oh, I forgot that too. I'm downstairs. I've got a kitchen upstairs and I'm downstairs in a studio kitchen, and I've brought equipment downstairs, and I thought I had everything, but I don't. I don't actually need this instrument. I just kind of wanted to, I guess, show everybody. But if you do not have a slicer attachment, I luckily have a slicer attachment on my food processor. If you don't have one, you can also use a mandolin. You're just going to put it on essentially like the thinnest slice possible. If you have like plates that go in and out, you're going to do like super thin slice, I think is what they usually say on it. That's the one you're going to be using. If you do have a mandolin that's adjustable in the same way that this blade is adjustable, you're going to go ahead and you're going to want to have that at a 1/16 of an inch or 0.16 centimeters. Let's see, that's about, I think I did them here. I made mine slightly thinner last time. And if you are uncertain, see, I do this. This is what I do all the time. If I'm using like a blade attachment, I'm like, I don't remember what thickness I wanted to have. I will do this actually. One other thing I need to do. I'm going to slice these in half. So the thing about potatoes is they're round. So you need to have a flat surface, right? If you're going to be using a mandolin or if you're going to be using your slicer. So just cut it in half and just start with the middle. Okay, so I forget all the time. And so what I do is I just do this. And then I check it and I go, oh yeah, this is the right thickness. And if it's too thick, then I'll go ahead and I'll adjust lower. And if it's too thin, then I'll adjust higher. This is the correct thickness that I wanted, so that's fun. If you do have this is a Breville, this is a Breville, and this is their slicer attachment. This specifically is the 16 Cup Pro. I don't think they make these anymore because it's, I think, 8 or 9 years old at this point. But I'm sure that the adjustments and things like that are the same on all of their newer products. So this is the first tick past a 1, if that's helpful for anybody that's using a Breville specifically. Let's see. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull this pusher out. So there's 2 options on the chute for this, which I just messed up. There you go. So you have kind of one for like streaming oils and things down, and then you have a larger one for larger items. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and you guys get to kind of see how fast this goes. This is going to be so fun. Are you ready? Okay, so that's half a potato done. If you were using a mandolin, obviously it takes longer. Please, there's our little slices, and they're all going to be uniform, which is nice. I might actually, I think I am going to adjust this just one more. I always forget that like I push down on the chute and then it just makes it slightly thicker. And also make sure when you're adjusting this thing that you do not have your hand near the blade, because I've done that and that's not fun. Brevilles are very nice. I full send trust Brevilles with my life. A lot of my kitchen appliances are Breville appliances. No, I'm not sponsored, but boy, do I wish I would be. Let's see. Okay, so let's do another one here. If you're using a mandolin, please be careful. I know they come with the kind of like, they're like handles. I don't know. They're like a handle that's like a guard that's supposed to help protect your fingers that you kind of hold on to, and they've got like little pointy metal pieces so that you can like jab into the food that you're going to be slicing. But those still sometimes can like get caught and then your hand will roll off of it and stuff like that. The safest thing you can do if you're going to be using a mandolin is get one of those like metal mesh gloves to use to protect your hands. Do I have one of those? No. Do I prefer to not use the guard because it terrifies me when it suddenly comes loose? Yes. So I'm like bare knuckling with the mandolin. It's not safe. Do yourself a favor, get yourself a glove, and adjust accordingly. I'm sure if you are using a mandolin currently, you're still going, just go ahead and just take it easy and be careful and go slow. And when it starts to feel like it's unsafe, just stop. Just stop. You don't have to keep going. It's okay. Use the potatoes for something else. Roast the leftovers. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, let's see what that gave me. Oh yeah, that's better. Okay. Even a little. Cool. So I'm gonna do the rest of these, and then we're going to do our water vinegar solution, and these are gonna get tossed into that. I have, in fact, not been prepared for this thing to keep going. It like pauses it sometimes when you're using the chute. If the power is still on, so I turn the power off in between every use because I'm so scared it's gonna just start when I'm not ready and like get jump scared. So essentially I do that and then I literally turn the power off and start over from scratch. Okay. Yeah, I have chopped off like the tips of my fingers and stuff like that with mandolins. They're not fun. I mean, they are fun. They're very satisfying until they're not. I'm turning it off and on, just taking the top off to get this one little piece that kind of gets left over. And then actually what I'm also going to do, because I can see this piling up, I'm going to kind of shift these over a little bit. I mean, how fun. Like, look, that's going to be a potato chip. I don't know. Very exciting to me. So I will totally share with you what the vinegar does. I've got somebody asking what the vinegar does. It's essentially going to do two things. It's twofold. It's going to pull some of the starch out of the potato. I know I said you needed starchy potatoes. This is where I'm contradicting myself. It's going to pull some of the starch out of the potato, which is a good thing, right? And it's also going to decrease the pH of your potato. I mean, if you like the really dark potato chips, then like good for you, but you should still do at least a water soak to pull some of that starch out, because it is going to do you a favor in the texture of the potato chip. Let's see. Last one. Okay. Exactly. So it's the opposite of using baking soda or lye when you're doing something like pretzels. So if you've ever seen anybody make pretzels, they do a lye soak if you're in a professional kitchen, or they'll do like a really heavy baking soda solution soak. And what that does, it gives you that really, really nice dark brown outside on like soft pretzels and things like that, or bagels do the same thing. And so it's, yeah, that's like kind of the counter to this, right? So for this, we don't want the chips to brown too quickly, but in that we want to get a really, really nice dark brown color on the outside of a pretzel or a bagel. And so those are kind of the ways to do that. And it also, the baking soda also creates a bit of a skin. And so like it helps kind of retain shape when you're cooking and you're like boiling or cooking or whatever you're doing for when you're making bagels and you're making pretzels. Okay, water. So you're gonna need 1.4 liters or about 6 cups of water. This is the largest, container that I have in my house for measuring liquids. This is my fat separator. It's fine. Hey, if you don't have multiple things in your kitchen that can be used for like multi-use, then there's no reason to have it. I don't like single-use things in my kitchen. I should like what's the point? What's the point of getting a glass one of these that literally its only job is to measure water when I can just do it this way, right? Okay, so we're gonna do our water. Okay. And then I'm also gonna do the vinegar. And you're gonna need a cup or 240 mils of vinegar. Let's see. I said 1.4 liters, freak. 6 cups, 1.4 liters. See, yeah, I don't like the sink in the island. I know it's really pretty and all, but the sink in the island gives me less space to work with, and I like to like spread out in my kitchen, and this kind of stops me from doing that, which I'm sad about. It's a really nice kitchen. Would I have done this for myself? Probably not. Okay, so I've got vinegar and water. I'm going to just start separating out and putting my potato slices in. You don't, like, it's okay if they're touching, like obviously they're gonna be touching. There's a whole lot of potato slices that are gonna go in here. But you don't want them to be like fully stuck to each other because you want the vinegar to get on both sides, right? So you want like all of that surface area to get covered. Yeah, I just like, I'm going to drop things into that sink a lot. And I don't want to break anything, but I know like I'm going to knock things over. I'm so clumsy. Like it's going to happen. So like I said, if you wanted to 1.5 times or 2 times this recipe, you can. However, the solution that I have here is exactly what is needed for the amount of potatoes that we're using. If you add more potatoes to this and you don't up the solution as well, it's going to have less vinegar by potato amount of potatoes. And so it'll pull out some of the starch, but the water is going to get really saturated with starch, and the vinegar is going to have a less of an impact. So you will see more browning. If you do twice the amount of vinegar solution for the same amount of potatoes, then you will have more vinegar solution per potato, right? So in theory, it would be even better at pulling out and lowering that pH. This is the happy medium that I've found. You get a little bit of browning, but the potatoes aren't like really, really dark. They're just like a really nice flavor for me. But if you did want to up the solution and leave the potato amount the same, you can do that too. It's just important to think of it as a ratio that works together and not necessarily something like, adding seasoning. Adding seasoning sometimes gives more seasoning but doesn't change the flavor of something, right? Because it's the same seasoning. This is not that case, because this is actually a chemical change. And so you kind of need to think about them on kind of like a scale. Elevation does have an effect. Elevation has an effect. The boiling point is different here. The boiling point is lower. So I'm actually going to have my temperatures are going to be slightly different. I'm not going to need to get them as high to get things frying as you would at sea level. But I'm still giving you guys the temperatures that you guys are going to need. Okay, almost done. This is like a whole bag of potato chips. So I've been thinking a lot about my cooking and how much I do and how I'm like taking all of these recipes that I would essentially like buy from the store and then just making them at home. This is so much cheaper than buying a bag of potato chips. Like this is 3 potatoes and spices I already had on hand. Now making sure that you have those spices on hand. Obviously, like it can get expensive. There are a lot of spices here, but once they're in your pantry, if you make enough food with them, it's like worth it. This is going to get left for about 20 minutes. I'm going to let this soak. The longer you soak, the more vinegar, right, goes in and out of the cells in the potato slices. So the longer you let it sit, the more vinegar flavor. And also the lower the pH of the potato slice that is going to get fried. Now, I will also say, I think I mentioned earlier that the recipe here before we started this video, I was chatting with people before we started, and somebody asked about or said that they really like making potato chips, or they really like potato chips and that this is like a solid recipe for them. On my Instagram, so at a little spoon, there are underscores in between each of the words. So a_little_spoon if you want to find me on Instagram. I have actually 2 recipes. On my website, I only have the one for barbecue potato chips, but on my Instagram, there's a secondary recipe that is for like a French onion potato chip. So it's like oniony. There's a little bit of mushroom powder in there. It's just like a really nice, savory kind of, it's just a really good potato chip. It's a really good, in my opinion, it's a really good potato chip. It's just not on the website yet. But in reality, this recipe can kind of go 4 different flavors, right? So we've got the barbecue, we've got the French onion that are made with seasoning, but then you could also just have a plain potato chip. You let this do, it's 20 minutes, you fry them up, throw a little bit of salt on them. If you want to do a cracked pepper, you also could do that, fine. The vinegar is going to add a slight tanginess, but it almost just gives it a savory flavor if you do the 20 minutes. If you let it sit longer, let it sit longer, so double the time, maybe an hour, whatever you want that to look like, then you're gonna end up with a salt and vinegar chip. So if you feel like it, just let it keep sitting, and then you're going to get like a really nice light vinegar kind of all the way through the chip, and then you have your salt and vinegar chip. So technically, at a minimum, if you're on the website, you've got 3 recipes. If you're on Instagram, then you've got 4. So yeah. Do you need to stir occasionally? You can. It's not necessary, but you can if you feel like you just want to get things moving around. I separated all of them individually and let them kind of drop in, so they're not like stuck to each other. There is solution getting kind of all through, and also because we've sliced them so thin, like they're penetrating down, and all that liquid's penetrating down into everything regardless. As long as they're not like super stuck together from slicing, you're good to go. Okay, let me unplug this. I no longer need this anymore. We're gonna move this out of the way, and I'm going to get kind of my next setup going, and then we're going to mix all of our seasonings. Okay. So I've got an induction cooktop here that I turned on by accident. Let's turn off. And then we're gonna get this guy over here. I've got a Dutch oven. This is a 9 and something quarter quart Dutch oven. It's ginormous. How big are you? 9 quart. This is a 9 quart. You do not need to use a 9 quart. You can use a smaller one. Just know that the wider the pot you're using, the more potato chips you can put in. As you take potato chips and move them into this guy, you're gonna want them to spread out evenly. If you do too many at a time, they'll stick to each other too much and layer, and then the ones on top aren't going to cook and the ones on bottom are gonna get too brown, and it's really hard to kind of do that. So you want like kind of a single layer to spread out. So the wider everything is, the more open everything is, the more you can do at a time. But it's not a really big deal. Like if you have a smaller guy, you're just gonna be doing smaller batches. And then if you do not have a Dutch oven, you can also use like a super stock pot or like a pasta pot or something like that. I think the next best thing, which I think even less people would have, is a wok. So like in order of good to like, hey, it'll get you by, Dutch oven, then like some kind of stainless steel, carbon steel, whatever you got going, wok. And then the next thing would be a pot. So the reasoning behind that is the thicker and the denser the material that you're cooking in, the more it's going to be able to hold heat. So once you add the potato chips in, and this is true with like frying anything, is you start at a peak temperature, you put in something and it lowers the temperature of the oil. So the better that your container can hold heat of the oil and keep things hot, the less fluctuation in that temperature and the better cooking you're going to get. So if I were going to use, say, a like pasta, like a metal pot, right? You're just using like a stainless steel pot, it's not going to hold the heat as well. So you're going to see a much more drastic drop. And so you're going to have to kind of really adjust your cooking according to that and just really pay attention. Now, you can do that a couple of ways. One of the most important things that you're going to need when you are frying is a thermometer. I do not know what I did with my candy thermometer. That's fun. You can get, if you have a candy thermometer, you can attach a candy thermometer to the side of a bowl, and that will help you keep track at all times. Otherwise, I'm just gonna use this today, and you'll be putting your thermometer into the oil and checking it as you go. Let's see. You need to add. Here's our oil. I'm using canola oil. You want to use a neutral high smoke point oil. I'm saying neutral because you want your potato chips to taste like potato chips and not peanuts. So like peanut oil is not a great option. But yeah, and honestly, canola, to me, canola is good. Vegetable oil is fine. If you are using some of the other oil, like a grapeseed oil or an avocado oil or something like that, that's fine and handy. You use oil, it like, I don't want to say denatures, but it breaks it apart, like structurally, chemically, more and more It degrades it a little bit every time you use it. Can you reuse it? Absolutely. If you wanted to use the oil after this, like I'm going to keep this oil once I'm done. I've got a secondary container over there. I'm just going to pour the cooled oil into that and I'll reuse it because I don't have like pieces of panko or like any other kind of breading or batter or whatever hanging out in the oil. It's so clean off of potato chips that I'm just going to reuse it. And I can reuse that 2 or 3 times for this if I wanted to, or reuse it for something else. But I like using something so expensive to then like maybe have the option of maybe not reusing it is like, I don't know. This is just cheaper. Okay. So I'm going to you need 2 to 3 inches, 5 to 7.5 centimeters. This is where the width of your cooking container here fights against you, right? So the smaller the container, the less oil you need to get that height. But you know, I'm doing this to go big or go home. So there. So we've got a nice good amount of oil there. Like I said, I'm going to be reusing this, so I'm not too mad about it. Is the mic cutting out? The oil doesn't get dirty. Yeah, it breaks down. There you go, Nagi, you got it. Yeah, it degrades the oil a little bit. So like it's one of those things like if you got oil, right? It's essentially good in a pantry out of the light, depending on what kind of oil it is. Let's say a year, okay? So it's good before it starts going rancid and that oil starts going off. So like sometimes if you've noticed, you like open up an oil and like you might smell it or you're pouring it or it's in something and you're like, whoa, like that smells slightly off. And that your oil is rancid, you really shouldn't be using it anymore. So every time you cook with it, in the same way that if you were going to put something in the freezer and you defrost it and then put it back in the freezer and defrost it and put it back in the freezer, it creates like icicles, right? It's not as smooth and creamy anymore, especially if it's like ice cream, or fruit will get that way if you're like using fruit for smoothies or vegetables. Every time you go into that bag and you take some vegetables or fruit out to cook or use, and then you put it back in the freezer and then take it out again, you see ice crystals forming on the outside more and more and more before you have like freezer burn, right? This is essentially the same thing. Is the more that you use the oil, the more it's going to degrade until it's no longer usable. And it happens at a faster pace. The more you're using it, the more you're, say, taking something in and out of the freezer over and over again. It's kind of the same concept. I would not suggest using a frying pan or a saute pan. Yes, I consider them to be too shallow. Can you do it? Yes, you can. I'm just scared of splatter. You'll see when we're going to do this, they bubble quite a bit. There's not a lot of splatter because we're actually going to sandwich these between a bunch of paper towels to get as much moisture off them as possible, right? Because water and oil do not mix. We all know this. And so they will bubble like a lot. And I'm the conservative cook when it comes to maybe injuring myself. I always err on the side of caution because I said earlier, I'm a little bit of a klutz and I will knock things over and I will make stupid mistakes. And so it's in my best interest to use something with really high walls. If you feel super confident about frying things and you've shallow fried chicken and all sorts of other stuff before, like go for it. You do you. But I do recommend if you are not used to frying and or scared of splatter and things like that to use something with a higher wall. Up to you. Up to you. Yeah, I have a fire blanket back there actually, just in case. Not for today, but like just in case at any point I set a fire in this kitchen, it's there. Okay, so I'm going to mix. Let's see. Actually, I'm gonna do this and just get this slightly more out of the way so that you guys can see a little bit more of what I've got going on here. Okay, so we're gonna move on to mixing up our seasoning. As you can see, there are quite a few, but I promise it's worth it. Some of these ingredients will in fact be difficult to find at a local grocery store. You would have to go to a specialty shop. You can, I would say you can do, I've got black lime in here. I would say you could do without this and you could trade it out for sumac, which you can find in a grocery store or most supermarkets. But the mesquite powder is a specialty item. I do personally think it's necessary. It's going to give you that traditional, I'm opening up a bag of barbecue potato chips. This is going to be necessary. Like, it's kind of impossible to add that smoky flavor without getting it in some kind of powdered form. Like, liquid smoke isn't going to work. You could maybe try putting, if you want to experiment at home, have some fun, you could try putting some liquid smoke in the vinegar solution and see if that penetrates well enough along with a little bit of the tang from the vinegar. I don't know what that would do when it comes to frying. I don't know what that will do depending like how much, because liquid smoke is pretty potent. So if you feel like experimenting at home, you may be able to get some of the smokiness using that. And liquid smoke is something that you can find probably in the soup aisle of a grocery store over by like the bouillon and stuff like that. I think that's probably like, it's going to be like by browning sauce, like, and like bouillon. You could try and experiment that way if you don't want to go like online or try to find a spice shop that specifically sells spices for the mesquite powder. But I personally think the smokiness is necessary for barbecue. Otherwise, it's just like it's not barbecue at that point, right? No, it's not powdered wood. No, Publix does not exist in Colorado. That is a southeastern United States kind of thing. Oh, hey, Froggy. Hello in YouTube. Okay, so let's put this stuff together. Let's do this. Let's see, I need grab these guys back here. I'm going to need a tablespoon or 8 grams of chili powder. That's my chipotle. I have these labeled. This is Mexican chili. If you go to the store and you get chili powder, it's like essentially like a Mexican chili blend. It's probably like guajillo and pasilla peppers and things like that. Like if there are different things, so like you could get Kashmiri pepper, that'd be like an Indian chili powder, right? There are Korean chili powders, and so I actually label it Mexican chili. But if you go to the store and you just get chili powder, it's essentially like a Mexican chili powder. So yeah, like you're looking specifically for I hate to call it basic. It's not basic. It's just what people consider like the universal chili powder, but it's not actually like in the United States. It's like the universal chili powder, but it's not. It is its own separate chili powder. It's just not labeled that way. I don't know if that's helpful. Dried smoked peppers is what you want. Yes. We don't have Wegmans either. No. We have King Supers, I think is what it's called. I have a Whole Food. Like we have all other things. Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. I don't know if there's an Aldi here. There might be a little. I'm not sure. I don't know what kind of grocery stores there are here in Colorado yet. I haven't really gone around and explored. Okay, I am going to use measuring spoons today. Usually I use my kitchen scale, which is right there behind me. But I'm just gonna use the measuring spoons. It feels easier today when it's just this. A half a tablespoon of sweet paprika. So like a Hungarian paprika is what you're going for. If you want to double this recipe and use it on other things, feel free. I found that this was like a happy medium for me, spice-wise, on the potatoes with the amount that I've got here. It's been so long since I've made these, I don't even remember if, in fact, I use all of this. I'm pretty sure that I do, but I can't remember. So I guess we'll find out, and then you guys can decide if you want to double the recipe because you are watching me put seasoning on this and you're like, ma'am, we need more than that. It's up to you. You do you. I need a 1/4 teaspoon of chipotle powder. So here's a little bit of smokiness, right? So if we didn't have mesquite, there's still some smokiness. For me, it's not enough. But in theory, you do have some at least in here if you didn't have the mesquite powder. I feel like the liquid smoke is probably a good idea. I almost want to try that so that I can update the recipe. Just to be like, hey, if you don't have this, try this. I will be sneezing. I already feel it coming on. I will be sneezing in this segment of the video. Whew. I'm trying really hard not to sneeze. Nope, 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 nope. Sorry, guys. I almost made it. You're only using a 1/4 teaspoon of the mesquite powder. Did I mute you guys okay? Okay, 1 teaspoon of cumin, of ground cumin. And if you at any point have the opportunity to like toast and grind your own spices, this will be an even better seasoning. So like I toast and grind my own cumin seeds, and like it's just like a really nice overall flavor. Like it just adds a little bit more there. And then garlic and onion powder. Okay, let's have a quick discussion about this. You need a teaspoon. I'm not giving you guys your grams. I'll go back through this in just a second. So I have found that Whole Foods, and I don't know if this is true of any other grocery stores, but I know for sure Whole Foods has this. They have actual powdered onion and garlic powders and not just granulated garlic and onion powders. I don't know why some grocery stores say onion powder, but it's like granulated. I prefer to have like true powders. I don't know if you can, I guess, let's see. He's got it over this. So that you guys can see that it's like actually like a true powder. I prefer that. I think that it coats more even. It's better on roasted vegetables and things like that. I prefer it. And so I will exclusively buy my onion and my garlic powders at like Whole Foods because I know that they're actual genuinely powders. Well, that's cool, Unagi. Okay. let's see. And then we need 2.5 teaspoons of confectioner sugar and 1 tablespoon of kosher salt. I use Diamond Crystal kosher salt. Yes, that is important. If you are using a Morton kosher salt or some other brand of kosher salt, there is a good chance that it is actually more salty than Diamond Crystal kosher salt. And that is because the flake in Diamond Crystal is, or the crystal in Diamond Crystal is flakier. It's a thin, really light flake. Morton salts and some other kosher salts are a more condensed crystal. Because they're more dense, they are in theory, or not in theory, they are in practicality saltier. And so it's really important, instead of going by your volumetric measurements, right? So I'm sitting here saying it's a tablespoon. Instead of going by that, go by, you need 8.5 grams of kosher salt. This is where weighing your ingredients comes in handy. When you're utilizing other people's recipes, especially if they don't indicate what kind of salt or what kind of thing that they're using the metric measurements and using measurements by weight is going to get you a much more consistent product than going off of the volumetric measurements. If I threw a tablespoon of table salt, so ionized table salt into this, it would be so salty that you could not eat these chips. So make sure A, you're getting the proper ingredient, it is kosher salt, and then B, that you are weighing your salt, because that weight is going to be important. If I used Morton salt, I would need less than a tablespoon to get the same weight of Diamond Crystal salt. Now, I totally skipped over the metric measurements for the chips, or for the seasoning. So I'm about to just go through that real quick so that everybody has it, because I was really only saying the volumetric ones since I was using these tablespoons. So let's see, or these measuring spoons. I'm gonna just run through it real quick. You need 1 tablespoon of chili powder, which is 8 grams of chili powder. You need a 1/2 tablespoon of sweet paprika, which is 3.5 grams of sweet paprika. You need a 1/4 teaspoon of chipotle powder, which is 0.9 grams of chipotle powder. You need a 1/4 teaspoon of mesquite powder, which is 0.5 grams of mesquite powder. 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, which is the equivalent of 2.4 grams. A 1/4 teaspoon of black lime powder, which I skipped over and now I need to do, which is 1 gram of black lime powder. 1 teaspoon each of garlic and onion powder. In garlic powder, you're getting 2 grams. In the onion powder, it's about 1.8 grams. And then I don't have this yet. We'll get to it. The confectioner sugar here, my icing sugar, powdered sugar. I've got 2.5 teaspoons. That's 5 grams. And then last but not least is the tablespoon of kosher salt, which is 8.5 grams of kosher salt. If you're using the Diamond Crystal brand, it's 1 tablespoon. Okay, let me finish this off because I totally skipped over this guy. So I'm gonna add him in. There we go. And then confectioner sugar. It's impossible to get Morton or Diamond Crystal. Oh man. I know you can buy it online, but honestly, just buying everything online sometimes is super frustrating when you can't just go to the store and pick it up. I get that. Just weigh it. I mean, I've got the weights on I know a lot of people probably don't, but I have the weights on my recipes. So you can use whatever kosher salt you can get your hands on and then just weigh it. Oh, that was only 2 teaspoons. I missed one. I'm too concentrated on chatting. Okay, 1/2 teaspoon. Or wing it. Yeah, or you could just wing it. Not a big deal. You could also do that. You don't have to, if you are not sure about the salt level and you don't want to mix it into your seasoning, you can mix the seasoning and add salt separately too. If you're really uncertain and you don't want to mess around by having it already in this, you can 100% just have the seasoning and have the salt on the side and sprinkle both in. You can also go less on the salt and then I'm gonna do this. Yeah, and that's good for me. It is, just so that you know, you do want this to taste slightly saltier than like eating it. So like it is going to be salty because you're sprinkling it on. It's not like fully coating every chip and all that kind of stuff. You're just like sprinkling it and getting like a good flavor. And then also something to think about is this is going to taste sweeter on the potato chip. Okay, for science purposes. The potato chips are hot. It's going to melt those sugars onto the chip as we are sprinkling, right? So it's going to get like really nicely coated. It's going to warm up and it's going to sweeten because sweeter flavors are more pronounced when they are hot. Aroma is stronger when things are warm than when they are cold. So like smelling an ice pop does not happen very well, right? Because it is cold. There's no aroma. There are no molecules kind of floating around your ice pops. But if you have a bowl of soup or something fried, you're going to smell that, right? Because as those molecules heat up, because it's so hot, the aroma comes up. All of the air is kind of moving really quickly around whatever you're cooking, and then you end up with a stronger smell and a stronger flavor. And the sweet flavors smell stronger than obviously like bitter or any of those kinds of stuff do when they're warm. Sweet just kind of comes out. So like if you think about like drinking a crisp beer and then like it heats up as it sits, the longer it sits, and then you're like, oh, it kind of tastes a little sweet and funky. It's because it's no longer cold. And so all that sweetness comes out. Okay, let's get rid of these. We've got our seasonings all done up. And now we are going to take these out and we're going to sandwich them between layers of paper towel. You can use dish towels. That is also fine. If you don't want to waste like I'm about to do, you can just put some dish towels down, put them between dish towels, and then you can clean them and like launder them or whatever when you're ready. We're gonna need more than this, but let's just start where we are. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take them out and I'm just going to layer them, sit them side by side. You don't want them overlapping because we want to get all of the liquid pressed off of these. Okay, if they overlap, then then they're going to be sandwiching liquid, the solution in between, and they're not going to dry out enough. We don't want to have any pools of moisture when these go into the oil or they will splatter at you. And we want them to bubble. We don't want them to splatter. So that is what we are attempting to do here. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep layering up so that I can save space. I could do like a whole L shape of them, but I'm just going to keep going up and up and up. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I don't want an oil explosion. That would not be good. No bueno. You will have some chips that are thinner and thicker than each other. I would say when you go back through and we're going to be cooking these, what you're going to want to do is pair up like thickness potato chips. It really won't matter. You just have to take them out like as they finish cooking, because you're kind of taking them out in small groups or one by one anyway as they finish cooking. Okay. I'm using a live paper towel. I feel really bad right now. Oh, I hate this. Okay, there we go. Well, you'll just take them out as they finish cooking, and it's not a huge deal if you don't have like thickness ones, but it's just easier. It's just easier. Little trick, tip, something or other, but it's not necessary. Okay, do we have any questions or anything while I'm doing this? Got about another layer or two. Like, look how many potato chips we're gonna make. Just saying. And don't get me wrong. Like, okay, I guess we can talk about this a little bit. There's a difference, right? Where it's like, this is cheaper, but think about all the time that I'm using to make these as well. So like, I fully get it. That it's like, hey, I just want to spend $5 to $8 on a large bag of potato chips, depending on where you're getting them from, and not spend all the time doing this. Like, I fully get that. But it is cheaper, and I do like these a lot. It's like opportunity cost versus cost. My husband's like, he's in chat right now, and he's saying we're gonna eat make enough chips that you can eat all of them until he hates himself. I'm making like a jumbo bag of potato chips today. One other thing to note about this, and you'll notice it when I start making them, is they are going to shrink up a little bit because they're going to do that kind of little, like, get all wavy and potato chippy, you know, like you see potato chips and they're like folded over and they're never exactly flat. And so you'll see that here. So it looks like a lot. It is a lot, but it isn't going to be quite this much once everything is fried up. Just FYI. I guess we can. Another layup. Another one. Oh my gosh. I might rinse all of these off and then just lay them out and dry them and reuse them after this. Because you can reuse paper towels. Especially if you're not doing much more than adding vinegar to them. And most of the time I'm using paper towels just to dry my hands. Yeah, DS, I get that. I've got somebody in here that said, I'm really enjoying learning about the recipe and watching, but I'm not sure I'd be up for the tedium of laying all of these uncooked potato slices so precisely. I get it. You could probably, like, use a salad spinner and then just kind of like toss them down and not really care. You're just going to use more paper towel or more towels if you don't kind of try to layer them. Almost done. I think this is the last layer. That one's too thick. That one is too. Okay. Yeti, I used a food processor to slice these up, but you can use a mandolin if you want. Oh no. Oh, so close. Dang it. Vinegar is great for cleaning anyway. I know, right? It is. That'd be great, actually. Hold on. Let me finish this and then I can get to you. One moment. We can talk about some extra seasoning flavors in just a second. Okay. Let's see. Can you share tips for getting a jalapeno flavor? Blend up crushed jalapeno pepper. What would add the tang or citrus? Well, I have black lime powder in here for a little bit of that citrus forward. You could use sumac as a substitute if you don't want to find black lime powder. The vinegar is also going to give it a tang. So you already have a tang there before you add seasoning, just in general. I do not have it up here, but I do have jalapeno powder upstairs. You can purchase jalapeno powder from spice stores. I'm sure you could get any number of powders. If I wanted heat, you could use the jalapeno powder. The chipotle powder has a little bit of heat to it, but not a ton because I've got, like, my kids aren't gonna go nuts over something that's super spicy. But you could use other chili powders. So you could use a Korean chili powder. You could use the Kashmiri. I mentioned earlier Kashmiri chili powder. That's relatively spicy, so even a little bit of that would go a long way if you were just looking for like a kick of heat. I'm sure there are plenty of other pepper powders that you could get at a spice store or like online if you were looking for that. But like there is like jalapeno powder exists. I have a jar of it upstairs that you could literally add just to taste, and then you would have it in the seasoning as well. So just add it. Okay, so now that I've got these kind of pressed out, and they're dried enough, right? So we've got no visible like shininess or pools of liquid on our potatoes. I'm going to get this guy heated up. I am not sure exactly how this is gonna go. I don't know how many batches of potato chips I'm gonna be able to make. When this thing gets too hot, it shuts itself off. So I have to get this oil to like 360 some odd degrees. I think I've got, let's see, let me write it down. Let me see what it was here for you guys. 360 to 375 or 182 to 190 Celsius is what I'm shooting for, which is pretty dang hot. I'm nervous this is going to shut off. If it does, I will have to move behind me and I apologize in advance. But we do have the overhead cam. So even though you will be staring at the back of my head for cooking, you can in fact see from top down, and you'll be able to watch it that way if we lose this cooktop. So we shall see. Let's get this up high. Our next thing that we're going to do, we've got our seasoning, we've got our potatoes, we've got our oil heating up, and then I also have a wide bowl. I like to use parquet bowls, these wooden bowls, just because metal and plastic kind of hold in moisture, right? And so if I'm going to put paper towels down, like that's also a thing. And I do recommend paper towels for this and not like towels. But I am going to put some paper towel down to soak up some of the oil that's going to be on the surface of the potato chips when they come out of our frying dish. But if you're using like plastic, sometimes the heat will also make it steam. And so I'm trying to avoid that as best I can. I don't want them to steam up and get soft after I've worked so diligently to get them thin and get them soaked and get them fried. I don't want to go backwards. So I'm using, at a minimum, look for a wide, shallow bowl, right, that allows for moisture to not get trapped and release. And if you do have like a parquet, this is something that you would use for like Caesar salads. If you have something like this and you have a wooden bowl, use that over something else. But I will also say, oh gosh, okay, before I get anybody in trouble, especially like men with your wives, do not use a really nice wooden bowl that's supposed to be for like decor or something like that. Try to find something that's like shiny and has a little bit of a like natural wood. That oil is going to sink into it and it's going to stay in the wood, and you will be sad that you did that forever. So don't do that. Don't use decor or something like that. Use like an actual like, hey, we cook in this bowl and we live in this bowl, and it's okay if it gets messy or dirty, because there is a good chance that the oil may, like if it's a natural wood and it's not finished, then it is going to soak into the wood and it's not going to come out, and you don't want to have that happen. So just be careful, please. Don't get in trouble. It's mostly having a wide, shallow bowl. Like that's going to benefit you more than anything. But wood is just like a secondary. Like it'll help. It won't steam as much as like plastic. Like plastic it's got no like ability to let air in and out of it. I don't know. My brain's not coming up with whatever that word is supposed to be. So cool. You're also going to need, now that I'm here, you're also going to need one of these guys. This is called a spider. If you also have, I don't know if I have one down here. I've got two spiders down here. If you have a like fine mesh strainer on a handle, you can also use that. That's fine. This just allows for the oil to get through the holes faster than like a strainer will, because the strainer has more surface area, and so it's got more to cling to. So this is just kind of faster to just like give it a little tap and then like dump in here. So I'm going to just leave that there for now. This is going to kind of I'm going to layer the potato chips. You'll see when I do it. I'm going to layer the slices in, drop them in, and then I'll be scooping them out with this. Poration, that works for me. That's a great word. I'll take that. It's not as porous. The plastic is definitely not porous. Hey guys, we are only at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That is definitely not hot enough. Please go get hot. Let's see. Is there anything that I can talk about? If you want to store your potato chips, they're good for like about 5 days after you've made them. Not that they're going to last that long. But before you put them in any kind of like bag or sealed container, you're going to want to make sure that they are completely cooled. Before you do that, because otherwise, I mentioned steam earlier, right? That any kind of heat will create steam, will then soften your potato chips. So you want to make sure that they are fully cooled and at room temperature before you add them into any kind of container. You will notice, and I'm going to attempt to avoid it, but you will notice some of your chips may not, like they'll get really brown around the outsides, but the center is still kind of pale and it's still bubbling. You obviously, like we want to have as few bubbles as possible, right? So the bubbles are moisture boiling off of your potato slices. And so the less bubbles you have, the more cooked your potato chip is. But you will encounter where you'll get some browning and then like little tiny spots of it or something like that will still be pale. There is a good chance that that will just be a soft spot in your potato chip. And it's kind of up to you to decide whether or not you want to keep that chip. Personally, I would still eat that chip. If you want to keep that chip, or like have like a little pile of like rejects and like you eat those by yourself later and everybody can eat the good ones, up to you. But you might have like a couple of small soft spots on a chip here and there. And you can either let it brown more until it is fully cooked and you've just got a really dark colored chip, or you can take it out and there's just like a random soft spot on some of the chips. The zoom of the oil. Does dehydrating a chip before deep frying it make it crispier like wings? I mean, technically, yes. Technically, it would just cook faster. It's not going to make it any more or less crispy, but it would be done faster because you've taken the moisture out. Now, the difficult thing is you cannot dehydrate it too much because then there would be nothing. I think that would also change the texture quite a bit. Because you're pulling the moisture out of the cellular structure before the oil gets to do it. So you're kind of cooking it with, because if you're doing a dehydrating, right, you're like no more than 135 Fahrenheit, essentially, is probably what you would be dehydrating it on. And that's going to kind of give it that like a spongy, dry texture, right? And so if you're gonna then try to fry it, I don't know what that would do to that texture. Instead of going from kind of moist, damp, instead of going from this amount of moisture, fine, whatever, I'm saying it, into our fry oil versus dehydrated it into fry oil, I feel like you would get two very different things trying to do that. Damp chips. I don't know. Soggy? I don't know. But this is just potato. This isn't a chip yet, right? Like this could just be like, I could make some au gratin potatoes, right? Easy, easy. Yeah, I feel like Pringles are probably the closest thing to a texture you would create. That's kind of what I had in my head. Oh, I'm starting to smell this. Let's see if we're hot enough yet. Not even close. I still have 100 degrees Fahrenheit to go, give or take. Please. I think I'm smelling this get too hot. I think it might just turn off. I might have to use what's behind me. I'm at 100 degrees Fahrenheit to go. Please get hot and stay hot. I'm actually super worried that this is going to just shut off in the middle of cooking a batch. This might not get hot enough, to be honest. I've never used this cooktop to get this hot. We're not even at 300 yet. Okay, I might have to start a second pot of oil behind me on a tiny Dutch oven. Let us continue. We are going to peel up some of this here. And I'm probably going to do, it's okay if they layer a little bit because we've taken most of the moisture out of them, so they're not going to stick the same way, especially once the oil starts hitting them. But I am going to just kind of, I don't want them to be fully like on top of each other. So we're going to kind of just delicately line this thing with probably about like 12 to 18, 20 potato chips. Just kind of go for that because I've got a lot of space to fill in this bowl. Okay. So here we go. You're going to see this bubble up a lot. And then we're going to be having potato chips. And I'm just kind of going to give these guys like a tap. They're cooking a little too fast. I'm going to give them a little bit of a tap and just make sure that they're separating so they're not sticking to each other. You are, when you're doing this, if you're using a spider, by the way, if you're using a spider that has this little end thing, I don't know if you can see it, this guy right here. it is going to, like, one of them is at least is going to connect to that thing, and like you're not going to be able to shake it off, but it's okay. Okay, see, these are already, now we're too hot. This is where we're running into our elevation stuff, but these are good. Okay. So you can see how like some of them are starting to not boil. So like this one is done. You go pull him out and move him into our, over here. Elevation. Okay. This oil was slightly too warm, but that's okay. I think this one was a thicker one. So how I mentioned earlier, where like if you have different thickness potato chips, some of them are gonna cook a little different than others, and that's okay. Just wait till you get to a good spot. Wow, these are brown. Okay. Woo. Seasoning. We went from the oil not being hot enough to being too hot. All right, so I'm gonna just sprinkle that on, and then I'm gonna give these, what is the best way to do this? I'll bring these back. I'm gonna give them a bit of a toss. And so I'm kind of just gonna hold this, and I'm just gonna kind of roll them around like this so that it kind of coats. And what I honestly do also is I will put like 3 or so batches in this and sprinkle and keep kind of rolling them around so that it gets even more seasoning on them. But yeah, and that is really good. All right, let's get a better batch than this one. How hot are you now? Oh yeah. That's too hot. That's what I thought. Okay, I'm now down past medium on this burner. That's crazy. It's at 400 degrees. So I couldn't get that one to go over 300 Fahrenheit, and this one's at 400 Fahrenheit. Oh, that makes sense. Where are we even on this one? Oh, this one didn't make it over 300, but not by much. The first temperature you're going to want to consider, if you're at sea level, is 360 to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 182 to 190 Celsius. That is your first kind of range for what you want your potato chips to be when they hit the surface of the oil and they start to cook. Now, because you're adding cold items to hot oil, the oil temperature will go down while you're cooking and then will come back up as things are cooking, right? Because you still have your heating element going. So it's going to drop down, let's see, into 275 to 85 Fahrenheit, which is about 135 to 141 Celsius, right? So that's where it's going to kind of drop to, and it's going to slowly kind of come back up as they're cooking. And as you saw, they cook pretty quick. So we're not going to worry too much about like, it takes like no more than 3 minutes basically to like cook through your potato chips. But while they're kind of coming back up, that oil temperature is going to end up, right, when you're done, somewhere between 300 and 315 Fahrenheit, which is 149 to 157 Celsius. Okay, so you're kind of like, and starting high, dropping low, and then slightly coming up somewhere halfway between the two. But then also remember is you can't just immediately take a batch and do a second batch because your temperature of your oil is too low. If the temperature of your oil drops too low during cooking at any point, then that oil is just going to soak into the potato chips, and they're just going to be like the texture that you're going to have like on your tongue as you're chewing and eating them is just going to be greasy, right? And that's, we want that oil to only be cooking out the moisture. We don't want it to be kind of imbibing. That's not the word. We don't want them to be penetrating into the chip too much because you don't want to have like a greasiness around your potato chip. You want to just use it for cooking purposes. And so you want to kind of keep it above that low point. Don't ever let it drop below that 275, 285, 135, 141 Celsius temperature. That's like the lowest that you want to go. Okay. And then yes, wait in between batches until you get to the correct temperature range before starting a new batch. It doesn't take long, but you kind of have to monitor your heat like the whole time that you're doing it. I feel like this is still hot. 370, 400, cool. So now I've got a burner that is too hot, even though it's on low. This is why I don't like electric. How can you tell if it's too hot other than the temp? Well, since potato chips are gonna cook between 2 and 4 minutes, this is too hot. unless you like to have really dark, like the kettle cooked chips that are like really dark. I think they call them russets or whatever in the Cape Cod chips. Unless you like this is too hot. And you'll know in the first batch, and then you can adjust elsewhere. So you can just toss a single potato chip in and see like how quickly it browns. So like by the time the bubbles are essentially like done or mostly done, right? And you can see that you don't have any super pale spots and like really heavy bubbling. Once that bubbling kind of either stops or slows down quite a bit, that's when you're ready. Oh, we hit in temperature. If they've turned this color by the time that happens, your oil's too hot. And you can just do one at a time. Easy test, right? All right, we are in fact a little too low in temp, but I am at a high altitude. So I'm gonna do this and we're gonna just go for it. Okay, we are frying. We are frying. Okay, we still got bubbles. I'm just starting to see a hint of brown, but it is nowhere near as fast as it was the first time that we did this. So that is a very good sign. Oh, there, see? I said one would stick eventually. If it sticks, just leave it. It'll probably just be like the last one to go. Oh, it came off. Okay, cool. I am going to kind of press. I might flip some if I feel like it's kind of really folded up and it's not like it's kind of out of the oil. If I feel like it needs a little bit of help, I'll do that too. These are about done. Some of these are done already. All right, let's get you out. And there we go. That's a better batch. Okay. Same thing. I'll do it over this so you guys can see it. Just gonna sprinkle some of this on. Hopefully I don't drop any of this in the oil. That would not be fun. And now we're going to do the same thing again. And I'll replace the paper towel too as I go through this because it does get a lot of oil on it. Oh, am I fuzzy if I move up? I'm sorry. Okay. A stage 5 cleaner. It worked out. Should we do another batch? Yeah, can you guys hear the crunch? Trying to make sure you guys get to hear the crunch. Are we hearing it? Mukbang. I'm giving you a side crunch. Audible, cool. It was a good crunch, cool. Okay, let's do another batch. I'll do one more batch, and then we're basically gonna call it a day. And I'll just keep doing these kind of on my own. And here we go. Again, I'm just kind of separating, making sure that none of them are like stuck to each other. Turn my burner back on to make sure that the oil is actually heating up at some point, not just dropping in temperature and staying there. I'm gonna kind of also dip these down into the oil to make sure that they are in fact getting full coverage in the oil. Don't worry if something sticks. The reason it's sticking is because of moisture. Just FYI, like if you've ever cooked steak, chicken, whatever protein, something or other, and you're searing it on a stovetop, right? The reason that any of the eggs, same thing, the reason it's sticking is because of moisture. And so if you're getting anything sticking to whatever utensil you're using, be it the fine mesh strainer or the spider like this, it is going to stick, but the second that that moisture disappears and does get cooked away by the oil, it will go away and you will be fine. I feel like this oil came down too low. Actually, that's not too bad. That's about right. Okay, cool. And there we have our another batch. And this one was a pretty perfect batch, actually. Good things come to those who wait. Okay, I'm moving forward. Moving forward. If you want to move the overhead too. All right. Okay, so I guess this is a good, like, you know, what to do, what not to do. So this is our newest batch here. These ones are pretty dang perfect, not gonna lie. I'm gonna sprinkle some seasoning on them. A little bit more on those guys. And give it a good toss. About now is where I would change out my paper towel and go for a new one. Do not try to reuse these paper towels. They're wet. Get a new one. You don't want to reintroduce any moisture to these once they're cooked. You want them to be done. Make sure I can see at least a little bit of seasoning on the surface of every single one of these. And there you have it. Perfect potato chips. Yay. But yeah, if your oil is the correct temperature, right, and you're following that range, you're going to get potato chips that look like this, right? We soaked in that vinegar soak, and then we had the correct temperature. If your temperature is too high, this is what you're gonna get. If you want this is still a good potato chip. I have been snacking on these while we were waiting for the oil to get to the correct place. So like that is still a good option, just FYI. But yeah, these are potato chips that are coming from the correct temperature. Okay. I'm going to continue making these and getting this going. But we have pretty much finished this stream, finished this video. The potato chips are good. they're done. And then the next cooking stream that we're going to be doing is a pasta stream. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. We're going to make some fresh pasta. For those of you who found this video on YouTube and you do not know about any of my other socials or my blog or any of that kind of stuff, let me just throw all that out now. I have a blog at alittlespoon.com. Got foods from all of the things, all the categories. We do desserts, we do breakfasts, I've got cocktails, I've got entrees and side dishes, the whole shebang. My whole spiel is that I really like talking about food science. I like talking about why I make certain decisions in the kitchen, because I think that always learning is important. And if I can help teach anybody how to get comfortable in the kitchen and to start making decisions with more experience and more understanding of what you're doing, that's kind of what I'm attempting to do, is just kind of teach in that way. So a lot of the recipes have a ton of information there. You can just do the recipe if you want to do just the recipe, but then there's also a whole wealth of knowledge for you to see if that is what you would like to read through and to learn. The recipes are mostly from scratch. I try really hard to not use pre-prepared things. So you'll see seasoning blends instead of that are made using all of the different individual spices instead of just like go grab the spice blender, that kind of a thing. So that is pretty important to me as well. Let's see, if you like the content that you have seen here today, if you think, hey, she's kind of funny in a quirky way and I did learn some stuff and the food seems like it would be good, you can like and subscribe here on YouTube and also any of the other channels that I have access to, including the website. I do have Patreon. It is how I keep my website free of ads. So if you want to just support all of this work monetarily, you can go ahead and click through the website to my Patreon and you can join from there. But it does come with benefits. If you really do not want to talk to me or anybody else, that is fine. You can just subscribe and call it a day. But you do get access to a private Discord server and we have a chat once a month. I put a lot of behind the scenes recipe testing and stuff into my private Discord that you get access to if you are a Patreon member. So come hang out with us if that's something that you're interested in doing, and support all of the work that I'm currently attempting to get off the ground. Thanks very much, and I hope to see you guys at the next video. Bye.